It's a question of legacy and how South Africa will be remembered when Rwanda replaces them in council on January 1st.
South Africa will be remembered for having promoted the interests of Africa, having played a leadership role insofar as African issues on the Security Council agenda are concerned, and also having brought into special focus the role that the African Union plays in the prevention and resolution of conflicts in Africa.
An issue championed by South Africa when they presided over council in the month of January, managing to pass a resolution that encouraged a better working relationship between council and regional organizations, particularly the AU, brought on in no small measure by the fallout over Libya's no-fly zone, which South Africa supported but eventually wanted reined in. Ambassador Mashabane says there have been improvements in Somalia, the crisis in Mali, and the Sudans.
The AU has a high-level implementation panel that is mediating between the South and the North, and several times have taken decisions through the AU PSC, Peace and Security Council, and have made recommendations to the Security Council. And we have seen Security Council since then taking into account the views of the AU, and in particular the AU Peace and Security Council, and even taking decisions that takes into account the recommendations that come from the AU PSC.
The UN has had a busy year by any measure, a summit on sustainable development in Rio, Brazil, that ushered in an agreement towards sustainable development goals that will replace the MDGs when those expire in 2015. It has grappled with conflicts in Mali, the humanitarian situation in the Sahel, security improvements in Somalia, a DRC at war in its east, and most notably Syria, where over 40,000 people have perished. The latter a clear example of the failures of the UN Security Council, where, despite broad consensus, one or two veto-wielding powers hold sway.
We continue to make this call that the Security Council has to be reformed, has to take into account the current global realities. I mean, the current configuration reflects the realities of 1945 after the Second World War. In general, as a principle, we do not support the veto, because you will have seen what happens with the veto, the experience of the past 12 months in relation to resolutions concerning specific conflicts around the world, where the veto has been utilized and people got frustrated.
After failing in a bid for full membership last year, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas came back to the UN in November in a successful bid to become a non-member observer state. But despite the success, the parties remain far apart.
It's one very difficult matter because there has not been an outcome. I mean, if you remember, in a very long time, I mean, even in the 2 years that we have been there, whenever Israeli illegal settlements have been taking place, we will discuss this issue, but we will not be able to reach some agreement. In particular, also because you will know some members who are veto-wielding hold a different view. They don't believe that this matter of Palestine must be discussed in the Security Council.
South Africa was in September elected to a 3-year term on the Economic and Social Council of the UN that grapples with the socio-economic and development challenges of the world.
We will leave the Security Council on a high note and very proud of what we did, and surely the feedback that we are getting from our fellow Africans as well as our fellow member states from the South and even the North in general. There's a general view that South Africa performed very well in the Security Council, and we think that guided by the principles of our foreign policy, commitment to Africa and the promotion of the African agenda and the respect for international law, we think we have done very well. I mean, we have done everything we could within our abilities to promote the values of our foreign policy as well as the interests of Africa.
During its tenure, South Africa also chaired ad hoc working groups on non-proliferation and on conflict prevention and resolution in Africa. Sherwin Briceby's SABC News at the United Nations, New York.